In at number 10, Phone Guy. Let's start off our list with one of the most iconic moments in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, the first call from Phone Guy. Phone Guy is one of the most memorable parts of the Five Nights at Freddy's experience. And fun fact, he's actually voiced by the game's developer, Scott Cawthon. A mix of narrative combined with valuable instructions, Phone Guy's messages feel like the last link to humanity in all of this pizzeria madness. His messages largely set the tone of the game, and when it's finally hinted to that Phone Guy has been dead all along, it's an eerie feeling that is hard to shake. Moving on to number 9, the details. Since the first game, there have been a whole lot of theories surrounding the lore of Freddy Fazbear's. This is largely thanks to the excellent storytelling on Cawthon's part, in which he never explicitly spells out the gruesome events of what went down in the franchise's past. There's a whole lot of hints though, from newspaper clippings about missing children to Atari-style minigames that further dive into that history. While that may not be a specific moment, there's something to be said about players discovering these little details, establishing an image of the world on their own, and that makes this component of the games land a spot on our list. Moving on to number 8, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Everything about Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is horrific. For starters, the game series innovates itself yet again by introducing a brand new kind of mechanic and story, but utilizes the familiar horrors we know and love. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 takes place inside of a child's bedroom. You're that child, lying in your crib, needing to deploy specific tactics to keep Freddy and pals at bay. It's nightmarish, and the ending is one that we won't forget anytime soon. Sorry, no spoilers here, friends.
And at 7, Midnight Motorist. If we were right about our original interpretation of Midnight Motorist and it's really after William killed Charlotte, then this has got to be one of the freakiest scenes in all of gaming. One of my biggest fears is the thought that anyone we walk past could secretly be a killer. William killed Charlotte and then just drove home. He went to Weenie Hut Jr.'s and nobody there just knew what he had just done. He came home and talked to his son like nothing had happened, and then he said his son will be punished when he gets home? It's terrifying. These kinds of moments are the ones that stick with you, if you think about it in the right way at least. The guy we see on the subway could have just escaped police, or the guy who makes our latte in the morning could have killed someone the night before, or could be planning on it later tonight. It's the reality of the world we live in. It's one of my biggest fears and something I think a lot about, which honestly explains why I resonate so much with this series.
Moving on to number 6, Ballora's Gallery. Five Nights at Freddy's sister location places us in a new world, not only taking place in a Fazbear's sister location called Circus Baby's Pizza World, but also in form as players now venture out of the office into the actual pizzeria, and it's terrifying. Ballora is one of the new characters we're introduced to, and there's a part of the game where you must enter her gallery. Not only are you met with eerie music, but you're forced to explore a pitch black room, and if you don't freeze when Ballora approaches, you're as good as dead. It is downright terrifying.
Number 5, Remnant. Considering that the revelation of the importance of Remnant was also attached to the scooper we saw used in Circus Baby's entertainment and rental in FNAF's sister location, the substance itself is involved in a pretty scary and important lore moment. Remnant also appears in Special Delivery and is used there to power up your animatronics, in a sense, giving them life. It seems to be the life essence of the animatronics in the games. Based on what we know from the games, this implies that Remnant is basically a soul or a collection of souls, but in the books it's even implied that Remnant could be created out of intense distilled emotions, such as primarily suffering and agony.
In at number 4, The Bite of 87. In the series, it's hinted to for a very long time that the reason why the animatronics are no longer allowed to roam freely during business hours is because of a tragic homicidal event. The 4th game in the series finally gave us a glimpse of what happened through one of its minigames, and through that intentionally low-res minigame, we get to witness some 8-bit horror as we see a child's head get crushed in Freddy's jaws. Talk about taking a gruesome scene and making it even more horrific by screwing with notions of nostalgia.
And at 3, Ultimate Torment. The ultimate custom night story we all know is that William is in hell being tortured by the soul of Cassidy, the one you should not have killed. However, now we seem to think that he was possibly in a coma in the hospital recovering from his FNAF 6 burns thanks to the story The Man in Room 1280. From the Bunny Call Fazbear Frights book. No matter what, this thing is still really scary when you think about it. Being tortured constantly would be one hell of a feeling. But when it's about someone who's constantly killing people, why should we care? Because of what it means to the series. This series is going through it in terms of lore reveals thanks to the Fazbear Frights books, but this we thought was solid. Now not even William being in hell is a thing that's confirmed. I mean, of course he'll be going to hell, but only if he can actually die. A killer who will never stop. That is bone shaking. Bone shake is ready.
Moving on to number 2, blind spots. When playing the first Five Nights at Freddy's, one gets the mechanics pretty well pretty quickly. But there is a part of the game that still scares the crap out of us to this day, because we never see it coming. Or rather, we weren't fast enough to stop it. We're talking about when the animatronics sneak into the office via your blind spot when the hall lights are off. When this happens, you can hear groaning in the room, specifically groaning if it's Bonnie or Chica. And as soon as you take your monitor down, you'll be hit with a jump scare. It is horrifying. Often this is your first introduction to the beauty that is Five Nights at Freddy's jump scares. The worst is when you run out of power and the room goes fully dark and you know for a fact that one of those animatronics are in that hallway in that blind spot, and it becomes a waiting game. The anticipation could kill us, but we know one of the animatronics probably will first before that happens. And finally, in our number 1 spot, Help Wanted. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted was released on May 28th of 2019, and it answered oh so many prayers we had for the series. Help Wanted is the long-awaited VR Five Nights at Freddy's game, the 7th in the series and chronologically set after the events of the 6th game, Pizzeria Simulator. Presented as the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, this well-received title is a little meta. It's a game that was produced by a fictitious company called Fazbear Entertainment to help improve its image after suffering from a slew of lawsuits. Can't imagine why they'd be sued. Can you? This number is more than just one moment because Help Wanted is filled with so many memorable moments, including minigames and some of the most horrific jump scares, made even scarier thanks to VR. The game has 5 minigames inspired by previous titles, adapting their mechanics to work in VR, breathing new life into familiar scenarios. Then there's Parts and Service, a minigame in which you have to perform maintenance on several of the animatronics by opening them up, cleaning them off, and swapping out parts. Don't follow the pattern and you'll get whacked with one hell of a jump scare. And death, of course. Then there's Vent Repair, which takes place inside of a maintenance shaft and is flat out terrifying. Win at all the 50 minigames and you'll unlock Pizza Party, a game that is a maze and makes use of teleportation tactics. All in all, there's a reason why this game is one of the top-selling VR titles on Steam right now.
Number 10, The Fate of Charlie. Through the minigames, we have learned that the puppet is another animatronic possessed by a spirit. It seems that the puppet is actually possessed by the soul of Charlie, Henry's daughter. Although this is a little confusing if we're factoring in what we know of Charlie from the books to try and tie that into one timeline. But if we just ignore the timeline part of it for now, which with FNAF I think is usually best, Charlie was Henry's daughter, a strong and independent girl who was killed during a visit to Freddy's restaurant, trapped outside, possibly having an allergic reaction and tragically dying out in the rain. Her spirit then went into a nearby animatronic, which happened to be the puppet. Number 9, Bite of 83/87? You decide which year it is. One of the most horrific and graphic revelations when we actually got to see one of, or potentially the only bite from the 80s revealed in FNAF 4. In a minigame, we see the crying child tormented by his older siblings and their friends. The young boy is celebrating a birthday at Freddy's and is frightened of the animatronics. Knowing this, his older brother makes him stand next to the Fredbear animatronic and then even puts his younger brother's head inside the animatronic's mouth. That is not safe, making his brother give the animatronic a big kiss. However, the animatronic malfunctions and his teeth and jaws clamp down on the boy's head, crushing his skull and, as we learn later, killing him. Some believe this should be known as the Bite of 83 due to an advertisement seen in the minigame from 1983, whereas others think the bite lines up too closely with what we know of the 1987 incident, the Bite of 87, for it to be a coincidence. What do you think? Which bite is this? Or are they both one and the same bite? Number 8, Stitch Wraith. In the FNAF books, we have learned about the mysterious figure known as the Stitch Wraith, which sounds like it could resemble perhaps Ennard, but apparently is kind of its own thing. Stitch Wraith has yet to appear in the games, but is still horrifying and pretty important to the lore nonetheless. It was brought to life using the souls of 2 children combined with the powerful emotion of agony or suffering. In the Fazbear Fright books, it has shown up in each book, appearing during the end of each one of the stories there, and appears to be collecting haunted animatronics parts for what we can only imagine is some kind of dark and sinister reason. Of course, what we'd really like to know is to what purpose is Stitch Wraith amassing its collection.
Up next, number 7, The Puppet. A sequel is hard to pull off, but Five Nights at Freddy's 2 manages to deliver on the scares without sacrificing what made players love its predecessor. One of the reasons why is the attention to detail, and the inclusion of mechanics like the puppet. The puppet is an evil marionette that you must keep at bay by winding up a music box. So not only do you need to keep an eye on Freddy and company, but an eye on this puppet, who will kill you if you don't playsate it. And its creepy music box tune is one that we'd like to wipe from our memory, that's for damn sure.
Number 6. Michael Afton becomes Mike Schmidt. During Sister Location, you play as Elizabeth's brother, Michael Afton, aka Eggs Benedict, as you become nicknamed by the malfunctioning hand unit. In the Sister Location minigames and during the main game that is Sister Location, we learn of your fate as Michael Afton after you are scooped out by Ennard during the true ending. Ennard remains with you, but we later find out as Michael's exterior continues to rot as time goes on, Ennard eventually leaves Michael, being vomited up by him during the minigames where we see him become more and more rotten and eventually fully purple. Circus Baby, however, tells you even without any insides that you won't die, and somehow, miraculously, Mike Afton comes back to life. Just like that. It's then theorized that Michael Afton after this point became Mike Schmidt, changing his name and becoming the other Michael that we come to know as the protagonist in FNAF 1.
Halfway through at number 5, Baby Charlotte. The big reveal in The Fourth Closet, the third and final novel in the original FNAF book trilogy, was that the main character Charlie was actually the third in a group of 4 robots created by her father after she was killed by Afton. That's what the title is referring to, one closet for each of those robot versions. However, it was also revealed that this robotic version of Charlie is also the Circus Baby animatronic, who can switch between her looks using the pins that we see in Sister Location and on the blueprints. It's honestly terrifying. Okay, thinking about the fact that this robot was realistic enough to get someone's gears turning, but then can transform into Baby at a moment's notice, I guess that's why people keep saying that Baby's thick. Or maybe it's just because y'all are into some weird stuff. Probably the latter.
Number 4. Serial Killer. Throughout FNAF 1, it's hinted that something awful happened at Freddy's. Well, actually, a lot of things that were awful happened at Freddy's, and it's later revealed that one of those awful things was a bunch of children that went missing. You later find out that these children didn't just go missing, but were murdered by none other than William Afton, dun dun dun, who is of course the inventor of these animatronics. Of course, we're still not sure exactly why William killed these kids, but the fact remains that he is the serial killer responsible, and it's even believed that helping to create the franchise and its animatronics was his own crazy way of creating his own horrific killing ground.
Up next, number 3, Golden Freddy Easter Egg. Here's a moment that some players may not have even ever seen. So, in the very first Five Nights at Freddy's game, there's a variation on Freddy that exists, and persists in later games, known as Golden Freddy. There's a very good chance that from your first playthrough, you never even encountered Golden Freddy. But if you did, you'll understand why this moment is on our list. He will occasionally appear in the game, seemingly random, not following the rules the other animatronics follow, and fills your screen with his terrifying mug. If you don't shake him off in time, the game will crash and completely reset. So yeah, you can be on the last night and real darn close to making it through to the end, but then Golden Freddy will f you up. It's incredibly unsettling.
Number 2, Freeing the Souls. At the end of Pizzeria Simulator, we learn that we have unknowingly been running the pizzeria for a greater purpose that was previously unknown to us. Our boss, who we suspect to be Henry, which was William Afton's partner, has hired us, Michael Afton, as the manager of this pizzeria so that we would lure in all the evil and possessed animatronics. Once all gathered, our boss reveals that now it's time to end the cycle of bloodshed and let go and move on from the tragedies tied to Freddy's franchise. He urges the animatronics there, including a version of Circus Baby and William Afton's Springtrap, to be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. Thus seemingly ending the murderous rampage of so many villains that we'd known, and in theory ending his own life as he is nearby, and the life of you, the manager, Michael Afton, when he burns the pizzeria to the ground. Number 1, Glitch Trap. During FNAF VR Help Wanted, we learned about the fact that somehow William Afton was still able to survive through an animatronics chip being scanned into the Help Wanted game, used to help create realistic replicas of the old animatronics. Somehow, this allowed some part of Afton to manifest, becoming a malicious code that was unable to be deleted. Help Wanted is such a meta game. It's games and games, and these games, this is a game in the world, but it's also a game in our world. What's real? What's reality? I don't know. So, even though William Afton was burned down with the rest of the animatronics in Pizzeria Simulator, we learn in Help Wanted that he somehow has managed to survive, and has managed to even recruit someone to potentially aid him in escaping the confines of his digital prison. It's more than likely that we'll learn even more about Glitch Trap in FNAF 8 Security Breach.
in an attempt to kill Charlotte. In FNAF 2 and even more so FNAF 6, we witnessed the murder of Charlotte Emily, the daughter of Henry Emily, one of the creators of the Fazbear restaurants, at the hands of his business partner William Afton, the Purple Guy, the man with more titles than Daenerys Targaryen. This moment is really the moment that starts the whole series. While yes, William had killed before this, him killing Charlotte allows the other animatronics to come to life, as we see in the Give Gifts Give Life minigame. If William had never killed Charlotte, maybe he would have gotten away with everything. The kids wouldn't have been able to possess the animatronics, and William would have never gotten spring locked. You think Golden Freddy is the one you should not have killed? Dude, he'd be fine right now if he didn't kill Henry's daughter. And at 9, Fazbear Frights. There are currently 5 Fazbear Frights books in existence, with another set to release probably in November, Blackbird. There were originally only going to be 5 Fazbear Frights books before Scott got a deal to make more, because you know, FNAF brings in the money. Also, for those of you saying we milk FNAF, have you looked at the views? We released a video that was top 10 weirdest VR games you need to play. That hardly got 1K views recently. FNAF videos hit 5K at least each time. So stop telling us we milk FNAF, we know. But now they're getting another 2 books. While this in and of itself is scary, the real horror comes from the stories within. Sure, this doesn't take place in the main FNAF game continuity, but it's still its own canon with its own lore, and these things have some deep lore for themselves, as well as in the games in general. More on that at the end. But these things have had lore reveals like how Remnant works, how Possession works, how Michael Afton is the Foxy Bro, but he's also just a reincarnated version of the Crying Child. There have been so many reveals among these terrifying stories, it's hard to ignore them. Don't ignore them at all. Or me for that matter. And at 8, facial recognition. The toy animatronics were created with the express purpose of adding facial recognition so that they could detect anyone wanted by police and try to catch a killer. Due to the original missing children's incident, which is weird, but like, whatever. You could just make sure that people don't come in unless they have children. The fact that the restaurant felt it necessary to add facial recognition to its animatronics and then tasked the man responsible for killing the children with adding that facial recognition, it's meant to catch him. Okay, that's terrifying to say the least. Honestly, one of the scariest things we haven't seen but only heard about. It sends a shiver down my spine. That's real horror. Not these jump scares and crap, but that, it's just, oh my god.
Number 7. The Fate of Elizabeth Afton. Sister Location in my mind was one of the biggest for lore moments because it just gave us so many important revelations. It and Pizzeria Simulator for me are really the standout games for lore moments. In Sister Location, it's implied and sort of revealed that William Afton had a daughter, Elizabeth. He made the animatronic circus baby for his daughter, but apparently would not let Elizabeth play with baby because he felt it was just too dangerous. This was likely because he'd made it to basically be a murder bot, or because he knew it just could be potentially dangerous and it could malfunction. I don't know why, of course, you'd make a murder bot for your daughter, but hey, I don't think any of us have ever thought William would stand a chance at winning any awards for parenting, am I right? Elizabeth manages to sneak away from her father and the other children, finding herself alone with Circus Baby, who, as expected, murders her, luring her with ice cream. Sweet, sweet ice cream. Elizabeth's soul then becomes trapped in Circus Baby, changing Baby's eye color from blue to green.
And at 6, Pizza Party. The pizza party ending in FNAF VR is another one of those stick with you moments. With jump scares, the fear goes away quickly, but with things like this, it can affect you for days to come. And especially with someone like Glitch Trap. It makes you rethink everything you know. Is that guy just a furry, or is that secretly his murder suit that he wore to the convention ironically? The pizza party ending, in case you don't know, is the final minigame in FNAF VR. It only unlocks after beating every other minigame and its blacklight version. However, this is some intense stuff. Your goal is to make it backstage, where Glitch Trap has laid out pizza, cake, and some of your friends for you. Bonnie and Chica sit on the sidelines as Glitch Trap pulls back the curtain and ushers you closer. Where's Freddy, you may ask? Well, Freddy's there, he's just on stage, waiting for you to join in the singing. Let's do it like a round. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Happy kitty, sleepy kitty, purr, purr, purr. No? Just me? That's normal.
Moving on to number 5, Pizzeria Simulator. One of the things we love about Five Nights at Freddy's is the fact that the series keeps innovating. It isn't afraid to venture into new territory within the horror genre, all while maintaining the charm we know and love the games to have. Prime example of this is our number 5, Pizzeria Simulator. It's a hybrid of the previous games and a simulator game, and it totally subverts both genres in style and form. It's pretty darn great and is equally charming as it is sinister. Plus you can download this one on your phone, making it accessible anywhere. Hey, playing environment goes a long way, my friends. It'll make you terrified of your own bedroom at night. But perhaps one of our favorite moments in this game is when the player can see the reflection of something standing behind them in the arcade's cabinet screen. Yeah, good luck sleeping after that.
And for the Twisted Ones. The Twisted animatronics are basically the book equivalent of the Nightmare animatronics from FNAF 4. This novel, the second in the original FNAF trilogy, was our first introduction to the illusion sound discs that we see inside of Funtime Freddy and Sister Location. The Twisted Ones are half organic, half robotic animatronics that are monster versions of the ones we already know, like Foxy, Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie. Their main goal is to blow up and then act like they don't know nobody, and then trick kids into trusting them using the sound illusion discs and kill them, bringing their body back to William for experimentation with Remnant. How fun. They use the sound discs to look different to every kid based on that child's memories, which is horrifying when you think about it. Hell, one kid may see a dead parent and then get killed because they wanted to see their father again or something. It's hella messed up and hella creepy. These things bury themselves during the day and only come out at night after digging themselves out of their own graves. It's terrible.
Number 3, Springtrap. One of the more shocking reveals was when we find out the fate of William Afton following the murders. He returned to Freddy's planning to dismantle the animatronics he'd built, but the spirits of the children he had murdered returned, hell-bent on getting their revenge. Terrified, William ran away and found the faulty Spring Bonnie model to hide in, knowing that the animatronics would not recognize him as a threat if he was also hiding in an animatronic suit. This part of his plan of course worked out, but due to William laughing at the thought of his own victory, which really he probably should have waited until the animatronics were gone, and due to water leaking onto the spring locks, the locks gave way, impaling William and killing him within the suit. His own soul then became trapped within that suit, as did his corpse, giving us the terrifying antagonist for FNAF 3, Spring Bonnie. The only animatronic in that game who could actually kill you. Because all the other ones were just hallucinations. Or ghosts. Ghosts.
And at 2, Vanny. With the latest release of the FNAF Security Breach teaser, we can only speculate what's going to become of Vanny, the main antagonist of the game. Also, I know the game isn't reportedly in VR. I still have my doubts, but I did see the comment on both previous FNAF videos as well as the comment left by Steel Wool on Steam, so sorry for causing any confusion there. I literally wrote those 2 scripts in the space of 3 hours, which is incredibly fast, especially for me, and filmed them both before noon, okay? So, cut me some slack. Anyway, we don't know much about Vanny at the time of this recording, but she's still pretty scary. The way that she talks and the fact that she's possessed by Glitch Trap just makes it really send a shiver down your spine. Especially when you think about the fact that she's probably taunting her son, or at least a close family member. Hell, it may even be Tape Girl. We never learned Tape Girl's name. I thought it was Susie thanks to the Chica animatronic from Health Wanted's Pizza Party ending, but maybe not. Maybe it's Vanny. Finally, in at number 1. I always come back. He protect, he attack, but most importantly, he always come back. Even still, potentially! This theory comes to us thanks to the story The Man in Room 1280 from the latest Fazbear Fights book Bunny Call, which features a man burnt beyond recognition and an iron will to live. However, it's not his will to live keeping him from the nurse's attempts on his life. It's really the spirit of one of the missing children who is keeping him alive so that he can be continuously tortured by living. This is obviously a reference to William Afton, who is burnt to a crisp in FNAF 6, but potentially still alive because of this spirit. This also explains how William survived for so many years while being trapped behind a wall, until he was set loose in FNAF 3. And you people thought I was crazy. I said he was alive, therefore Springtrap wasn't an animatronic because he was being controlled by a living human. He was just a human, stuck in the suit. And besides, a man living for 30 years behind a wall isn't the most far-fetched thing in this series. Well, now it's canon. William Afton was being kept alive by the spirit of a dead child, who in the epilogue had found his way into the Stitch Wraith, meaning that now William is finally dead, but probably not before latching his soul onto another circuit board with usable code that ended up becoming Glitch Trap. So, is he really dead?
Number 10, Night 5 Phone Call. It's possible that the creepy phone call we get on Night 5 of FNAF 1 is just there to creep us out, and if that is its only meaning or purpose, I would say it does its job pretty well. But of course, that is never enough for us FNAF fans. We need it to mean something. Why does it happen? And why only on night 5? Is there a hidden message somewhere in there? While many fans have broken down this recording, lots of theories claim that it's saying something different than other theories. It doesn't seem we've universally been able to agree on the words being said or the meaning behind them, if there really was any meaning at all. We still don't have a confirmed answer for this creepy call, where it came from, or what it's trying to tell us. Is it a demonic message? Are the children trying to reach out? Or is it just there to scare FNAF 1 players? And it really does mean nothing. Number 9. Purple Guy. So one of the unexplained parts of FNAF is something that I feel like we have been trying to justify for years, but that also might just be as simple as a game design explanation. This one, I guess, is sort of explained, but it's never been explicitly confirmed by Scott Cawthon, I don't believe. So because I feel like it's interesting and we don't know for sure, I figured I'd include it here. In the mini games, William Afton appears as a purple guy. This became so synonymous with the character that one of his aliases even became Purple Guy. But why does he appear to be purple? Some claim this is because William Afton is an undead figure. He died, he rotted, turning purple, much like Michael did in Sister Location. He also looks purple in that game as well, in the mini games. If we even want to call those mini games, I don't know, the mini walking about. And so, because William Afton's corpse is all decomposed, that's how he appears. But what about in FNAF 3? We also see a mini game where he seems to be alive as we watch as he gets into the Springtrap suit, running from what we assume are the ghosts of his victims. Once in the suit, it's evident that the spring locks have malfunctioned, puncturing his body and killing him. So if he doesn't die till after, how could he be purple before? Why would he appear purple before his death in these games? Well, some have theorized it's to make the character stand out. A Redditor by the username of Stray Dogs actually suggested that it is actually because of the style of old Atari 2600 games. William Afton is actually a shadowy figure. Those old games usually only had a black backdrop. So for anything that was supposed to be shadowy, you would use purple or something to avoid it blending into the background. I think that's actually a pretty good explanation. So I know I said unexplained, but that one might be explained because I just think it makes sense. But let me know what you think. Is it rotting, or is it old game styles, or do you still feel like we don't have an answer for it yet? And friends, before we move on to the next spot, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up. If you love FNAF videos, make sure you show us you love them so we can make more content for you. Number 8, Ballora's Song. Something that continues to haunt me is Ballora's Song. Many fans believe that Ballora is a stand-in for William Afton's deceased or simply ex-wife, who left him in some kind of permanent capacity, whether through death or just by choice. Ballora's song that she sings seems to play into this theory very, very well. Ballora sings about wanting someone to come join her, someone who is secluded, seemingly in mourning, and who has no joy left in their life. The idea here is that Ballora is echoing the feelings of Afton's wife, who felt that William was lost to her because of his work, and possibly because of an accident that caused them to lose a child, also adding distance between them. Ballora sings, "All I see is an empty room, no more joy, an empty tomb. It's so good to sing all day, to dance, to spin, to fly away." If Ballora was built to represent William's wife, who left him after the loss of a child, then these lyrics seem to make a lot of sense. However, we still have no real idea if Ballora is meant to represent Mrs. Afton, or if William was ever married at all. I'm still contemplating whether or not his children really are his biological children and not kids that he adopted, created, or potentially kidnapped. What do you think? Is Ballora meant to represent Mrs. Afton, or is she just another of William's twisted creations, meant to just creep us out? Number 7, Springtrap's fate. Or really, William's fate, I guess? In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, there is a little cutscene via the minigames that we unlock where we learn of why Springtrap looks so gnarly. You end up finding him surrounded by ghosts and see as he attempts to disguise himself in the spring lock suit, only to have those locks malfunction and have him get impaled by all the screws and parts within that suit as it all suddenly releases. These little mini games and cutscenes always have the best bits of lore, but generally also give us the most disturbing scenarios and creepy stories, all in 8-bit. What's more, I love that although Springtrap is the villain here, the ghosts actually feel really malevolent. And I know they're just like innocent little ghosts, but I'm also like, you guys kind of seem sinister here. I like it. Number 6, the end of Sister Location. One of the endings for Sister Location, not the true ending, but still, shows us that despite us managing to survive the night and escape Ennard, if that's the ending you get, avoiding getting scooped, even when we make it safely home to watch our soaps, we're not truly safe. Instead, we are pursued by Ennard, who somehow manages to escape the facility without us, even though that was the whole point of needing to scoop us in the first place, was to be able to escape. And also, miraculously, either finds a way to follow us home or find out somehow where we live. I guess they could have our address on file at Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, but still, how did they get out? What? Number 5, Phone Guy's Farewell. The final phone call that you do manage to get from Phone Guy in FNAF 1 comes through on night 4. This phone call is pretty dark, as with it we are able to piece together what may have happened to our helpful friend who has been guiding us through our first week with pre-recorded messages from what we assume must have been his final week on the job. This phone call, however, seems to imply that Phone Guy never got to finish out this week, as on night 4 he was attacked by the animatronics after likely running out of power. All we can hear is his voice somewhat frantic but attempting to hold it together as he asks us to check the suits maybe in the back room for him, as he plans on hiding out there before he is interrupted by Freddy's music and what sounds like an animatronic jump scare. Number 4, Crying Child. While many still believe the Crying Child is the protagonist of FNAF 4, we don't really know much about them, or if they truly are the protagonist we're meant to be playing as in that game. The Crying Child is often thought to be the third child of William Afton, but none of their appearances have ever explained who exactly they are, so we are still left even wondering if this is true. I also feel like we don't even really know for sure if they're the third child in terms of like the order of the siblings. I don't know, you can let me know if you feel like we have lots of evidence to prove something like that, but I don't feel like we have enough evidence even for that yet. Most of what we know about them is based on theories we've all come up with to make sense of their importance and their existence. Why they have been so prominently featured as a character still remains to be seen. Are they actually in Afton? Is this some kind of red herring meant to mislead us? Could they somehow be Michael Afton at a younger age? Or could they somehow have some kind of tie there? Or perhaps William Afton but younger? I don't think that makes sense with dates, but the dates that appear in the game really only make the mystery more confusing, as it's very hard for us to pinpoint a timeline in regards to the potential siblings' dates of birth and death, or just the dates of anything in general. It's very confusing. I'm confused. Are you confused? Number 3, Hangman. The fate of the workers in the lore and stories is really what gets me while in the game, because you yourself as the protagonist are meant to be a worker at this place. In Sister Location, not only do we have the strangely brief and non-descriptive story of the dead body in the vent, but we also get a moment when on the last night no animatronics appear to be on their stage. Instead, Hand Unit believes they are there when we shine the light on the stages because of the presence of something much darker and awful there. That is 2 dead bodies which appear to be hanging from the rooftop of both of the stage areas. These bodies are likely the workers who you have been told stayed well past their shift end and have not yet left. Turns out they couldn't leave because they were too busy being dead. They're just hanging around. Number 2, getting scooped. A strange moment in terms of what we see happen in-game versus what would really happen in real life can be experienced in Sister Location. In this game, at the end of your true story, your character, Eggs Benedict, who we believe to be Michael Afton, gets scooped. Ennard then wears your skin as a human disguise, allowing them to leave the Circus Baby and Entertainment rental facility. Afterwards, the protagonist rejects the insides of Ennard after outwardly rotting. Being that they have no guts and should be dead, this would in theory be the end of their story, because now they literally have nothing inside them. They just upchucked it. They would crumble to the ground and finally be 100% dead. I mean, technically getting scooped should also make you 100% dead, but in either case, that's not what happens. Instead, you hear Circus Baby's voice reassuring you that you won't die, and we see good ol' Eggs Benny come back to life. How is this possible? We still have no idea. Though I would, once again, like to use this opportunity to assert my Afton's children are lifelike humanoid animatronics theory. Anyone? Anyone taking that theory? I think it's a pretty good theory. Number 1, the murders. One of the greatest mysteries is also one of the most important ones, especially when it comes to understanding the most prominent character in the franchise, William Afton. The murders that he committed still baffle players. We also don't even really know if he committed all of the murders. Recently, there has been some doubt based on evidence found in the Fazbear Frights books as to whether or not he could actually have maybe an accomplice, possibly Vanny, and even more ridiculously, I don't know, possibly a time-traveling Vanny? I don't know. Why William Afton seeks to kill is still a huge unexplained question in the game, and one that is crazy important, because it would also help to explain ideally so many other things that William has done. The murderous events that have been referred to in the lore, and the why behind them remains one of the most puzzling and most important mysteries that FNAF has given us.
Number 10. The Vents Story. In Sister Location, we learn of the fate of someone else who crawled through the vents previous to us. And surprise, surprise, it's not good. It's not a good fate. The thing that I think makes this moment so dark is the levity that it's given in its retelling. As we crawl through the vents, it's an angsty teenage-voiced hand unit that offers to tell us a funny story. The story goes that a dead body was once found in the vent that we are in. Hand unit admits the story isn't that funny, but falls back on the fact that, hey, it was a story. As you are in the vent, the fact that there is no sympathy for the dead body or any explanation of how or when it was found just kinda adds to the darkness and the horror of this moment. Number 9. The Final Call. In the first FNAF game, our final call sounds like a demon picked up the phone to call you. Gone, of course, is the reassuring voice of Phone Guy, as he has his own problems to deal with after Night 4. However, that makes us wonder who exactly is calling you here, and what is it that they are trying to say. Some fans have theories on this, but no one seems to be able to fully agree on just what could be being said here, if anything. The only thing I think we can all agree on is how creepy this phone call is. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, be sure to show it by giving this video a thumbs up. And be sure to check out our FNAF playlist for even more FNAF videos. Number 8. Say Hi to Ballora. These mini-renas though, they really just get me. Why are they so creepy looking? How is this a thing when Ballora is made to look so pretty and so nice, and yet her mini-renas literally appear as though they were just designed to be straight nightmare fuel. In Sister Location, part of our job is making sure that the animatronic performers are on their stages, practicing and ready to perform whenever they are called upon next. If they are not on the stage, we are meant to give them a controlled shock to encourage them to come out so that we can see them. For Ballora, there is one night where we do not do this, as she appears on her stage willingly. Well, not really willingly, more in pieces, which are paraded in front of us by her mini-renas, who hold up her disassembled body. The whole moment is dark and disturbing and makes us wonder what happened to her and if the mini-renas tore her apart. Of course, there is something much bigger going on when it comes to Ballora's state in regards to the greater story in this game, but we don't know about all of that just yet, so instead, we just get creeped out.
Number 7. Crying child? Children? One thing we still aren't sure of is who exactly the crying child is. What's more, we have a few different crying children that pop up throughout the series. Usually when we talk about the crying child, we're talking about the character who appears in FNAF 4. But for the purpose of this point, what I'm actually curious about is your theories on the crying child or children who appear in the games previous to number 4. You can see hints of them in the games prior, but you'll definitely have spotted them in FNAF 3. There they show up prominently in mini-games, including in the Happiest Day minigame, where the crying child there must be given cake. Who are these crying children hinted at in previous games? Are all these appearances a cry back to the crying child, or are they all different children who just happen to all be miserable? Are they all victims? I have so many questions about everything. I'm like, this probably, but also we still don't know, so what's going on?
Number 6. Step Closer. I love the Fazbear Frights books. They just add a whole lot of creepy moments to the franchise and even provide us with some of the darkest stories overall. Step Closer is the title story of the 4th Fazbear Frights book, which shares its name. In this story, we learn how Pete, the older brother of Chuck, ends up being cursed by Foxy after visiting Freddy's and attempting to tease his younger brother. Foxy's song that he sings stays with Pete, and it's believed that the curse that Foxy placed upon him through that song is causing his
eye and his arm to constantly be thrust into dangerous situations. Pete figures out how to cure himself of the curse and decides to make things right, but is killed before this can happen. In the end, despite being dead, Pete is somehow seemingly still awake and within his body, and is able to witness as his hand and eye are removed, as they are needed for another patient, and Pete is listed as an organ donor.
Number 5. It's me. It's me is a phrase that pops up all over the place in FNAF 1 and is classified as being a hallucination. But what does it mean and where does it come from? There are a wide variety of theories on this subject, but many of them differ. One thing that many have in common is they believe the words "it's me" are coming from the animatronics, but whether the phrase is intended to be malicious, reassuring, or simply is some kind of plea for help from the spirits that haunt those animatronics remains to be decided on. What's more, these are just theories about the phrase. We still don't really have any definitive proof that tells us exactly what "it's me" is meant to refer to and why it shows up all over the place in FNAF 1, from Foxy's sign here and there to background posters to simply appearing on your screen in accompaniment with either Freddy or Bonnie. That is, of course, if you get that glitch, because it doesn't always show up, but it can.
Number 4. Room for one more. Still one of the most horrifying and haunting stories that we have received so far from the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise comes, for me, once again, from the Fazbear Frights books. The 1:35 a.m. story Room for One More is such a disturbing story that I cannot ever forget it. It really just stays with me. It recounts the tale of Stanley, a security guard who works at an underground facility, likely Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, and can't help falling asleep on the job because, well, he works nights. Mini arenas always come to visit him to ask if he will take them home with him, and he agrees to do so, but whenever he wakes up, they're seemingly gone. Oh well. We learn that what has really been happening is that they have been crawling into his body while he was asleep, making Stanley feel more and more unwell as the story goes on. But he doesn't realize why until the very end, when he actually witnesses one mini arena crawling inside him as he screams after she asks him if he has room for one more.
Number 3. Shadow Bonnie and Golden Freddy. Why do Shadow Bonnie and Golden Freddy crash your game? This is a mystery that still seems unexplained. I guess we could just easily explain it away with the fact that antagonists in the game each simply have their own thing that they do, their own way of punishing you, and this is Shadow Bonnie's and Golden Freddy's way of doing so. If you are not proactive enough, that is. Still, it seems very meta in comparison to some of the other punishments, as this punishment isn't something that happens to the character you're playing as in-game, like losing power, being unable to access your screens, doors getting stuck open or closed and things like that. But instead, it's something that happens outside of the in-game environment, affecting you as a player, not you as a character in-game. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean anything?
Number 2. Death of Crying Child. I think this was also one of the most shocking moments for me in this game, especially in FNAF 3, and especially given what happens before even this moment. Crying Child is afraid of the animatronics at Freddy's, but despite this, his brother, Foxy Bro, possibly Michael Afton, and his brother's friends take him to see the animatronics up close. Great. They are doing this obviously because they enjoy tormenting this poor kid who just wants to stay at a safe distance away, and maybe doesn't even want to be there. That whole part is a little confusing to me based on the toys that the Crying Child owns. It seems as though they actually might be a Freddy's fan, but maybe it's just the animatronics and not the character's overall brand that they have a problem with. They get up close and push Crying Child towards the animatronics, forcing him to give the animatronic a big kiss. However, Crying Child's head then becomes stuck inside the mouth of said animatronic and then is shown being crushed after it malfunctions. Despite the 8-bit graphics, this moment is shocking and haunting. Like I said, these 8-bit graphic scenes are just a lot. Number 1. Death of Elizabeth. A lot of the darkest moments in my mind come from one of my favorite games in the franchise, Sister Location. I mean, maybe that's part of the reason that I love it so much. I do like dark things. The death of Elizabeth is definitely one of the darkest moments out there. I especially love the eerie monologue we get from Circus Baby surrounding it, explaining how she lured Elizabeth away from the group using ice cream and was seemingly unaware of what was going on or why exactly it happened, as though it were part of Circus Baby's programming to kill Elizabeth, devouring her and trapping her soul within the animatronic.